Hello, and welcome to the Down Home Texas Small Business Show. I am Tammy Fisher, enrolled agent, and this is
Amanda Adams, CPA.
Amanda Adams, CPA. And this is part two of financial literacy for families, children,
Families?
families.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll call it families. And today we're going to be talking about our older kids, college age kids, young adults. And let's welcome once again our friend and yours, Dr. McKaylee Morrow Esdale, CPA.
Hi.
Is that how we would say that? Dr. McKaylee Morrow Esdale, CPA.
Yes, I always say I'm a doctor. I don't really do anything that helps people. Maybe now I do,
I
but
disagree, McKaylee.
like if you're on an airplane, I'm not going to raise my hand if they ask if there's a doctor there, right?
Is
But
there a doctor? You
I
can
did
raise your
have
hand.
this.
Yes, I can talk to them about their finances.
That's right. That's right. Once they survived this incident, I did have a professor one time that said accounting saves lives. So we can,
It does.
we can talk about that.
We
He was
can
at
talk about
Texas
that.
Tech, actually, Amanda. It was Robert Ricketts. Yeah.
Dr.
So
Ricketts!
yeah,
Okay, well, we have to talk about that later, but yes.
yeah. He's
Okay,
amazing. He was my
cool.
mentor when I did my PhD. So yeah. But yes, I'm so happy to be here because I know last time we didn't even like scratch the surface of all the things that we could talk about with financial literacy for families.
So many things. So many things. But so many things, and let's dive right into it. This one's going to be, we're going to talk all about young adult, college age kids, older kids, which is really a big topic for Amanda and I both
Yeah.
because we sent kids off to college.
Yeah.
How was that? How was that? Sad?
It's okay.
We learned
It's okay.
in the last episode that she has a nest egg, so we don't have to worry some. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you know what? Audrey, let's stop calling her Audrey. It's my granddaughter, actually, my granddaughter
Okay.
that
Yep.
has lived with me for the last 7 years. Listen, she's on a mission. Okay, this girl is mission driven.
Okay.
She graduated high school a year early, got into college on an early acceptance deal program, started in
Cool.
the summer. She took 4 credit hours over the summer. She's got 12 for the fall. She's got a scholarship. Tuition's paid already. That's another story. She's got a grant. She's got a student loan. She's done. She's got her shit together, and and she's on a mission and she's ready to go. And she kind of we're going to talk about that in a minute
Yeah.
about kids who have an idea of the standard
Yeah.
that they have set for themselves and how they want to get there. And
Yeah.
that's what she's got in her mind. So we sent her off and she was ready to go. It was earlier than what we wanted, but she was ready.
Did she
So
so this is really super relevant, and I know Amanda, you've got a kiddo or two in college now, so we'll come back to that in a second. But
okay.
I'm curious, so you yada yada yada, you said tuition's paid, yada yada yada. That's a different story.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. This is actually
Okay.
very important because you said,
Okay.
she's got a scholarship, she has all these things. So, I'll go back to when I talk to financial therapy clients. Many of my clients that are in their late 20s and then in their 30s and some even in their 40s have a lot of student loan debt. And we have many discussions about student loan debt. And so many of those clients did not have an adult to help them figure this out. They just were told by society, it's the message that we send, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always bear out to be true, that they needed to go to college. When they applied to the colleges that they wanted to go to, they were told this is how much student loan debt you take on, and they just did it. They just signed everything. And so I have discussions about, you have to have empathy for your younger self that was just trying to figure out what to do.
Yes.
It's okay. You
Yes.
couldn't have known better if you did not have an adult, an educated, a financially literate adult in your life, because there's a difference between being educated and financially literate. So I'm curious what discussions you had with Audrey and what her situation looks like because you're obviously
Okay.
financially literate adult.
Yes. Okay. Well, okay. First of all, Audrey was in foster care
Okay.
when she was younger,
Okay.
for a short time, and because of that experience, the state pays her college tuition.
Okay. Okay. Very
So
good. All right. All right.
that was part of the deal when she came to live with us that we
Okay.
arranged for her. So
Awesome.
her college tuition is paid, um, as long as she attends a state
School.
funded
Yeah.
university. So so her tuition, they pay for her tuition and books.
Okay.
So she has to come up with the money to cover her room and board.
Okay.
So she was very concerned about that. Going in, she was very concerned about that. We talked to her a lot about the ability to get scholarship funds for that. We talked to her about us being able to help her pay for that, work study, different ways to pay for that. She ended up with a scholarship, a merit scholarship, because she's a smarty pants and she graduated a year early. She obviously has the chops, academically, to carry a scholarship. So she ended up with a really nice scholarship that covered the biggest part of the cost, and then she ended up with a small student loan
Okay.
to cover
Okay.
the rest of the year. And then she did work. She worked over the summer, and she banked all that money.
Of course she did.
So
Okay.
of course she
Okay.
did.
Excellent. So when you is she living on campus? She's not
She
living.
is.
Okay. All right.
She
So
is. She's required to live on campus for her freshman year,
of course that's usually the
and then
case. Yeah.
after that, we'll see what she wants to do.
Okay. Okay. And so she's probably a little different from some other kiddos in her situation because she's had this experience being in foster care and grew up kind of quickly, probably very worried about room and board because of situations that she's been
Oh,
in.
yeah, yes, and she got
Yeah.
a grant. She got a Pell Grant as
Awesome.
well,
Awesome.
because having been in foster care, she qualified for a Pell Grant.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah. So the foster care provision, I know I'm in Massachusetts. I know they have that here as well. So I'll just say for anybody that's watching or listening, one of the things that I saw as a professor over 17 years was so many people just didn't look for what was out there, free money that was
Yeah.
out there. Grants that are available now, because they would just throw up their hands and say, my parents make too much money. And we know that some of that too much money is not very much money, not in today's dollars.
Correct. We were
Right.
very concerned about that. So
Right.
we were
But
surprised that she got a grant.
but that's a special situation, right? Where it's like
It is.
she is in this category of student, and so she qualifies for that. So there are so many of these options out there. You just have to look, and it does take some diligence, and not just with grants, but also with scholarships. Um,
Yes.
so many scholarships don't even get applications. I was on a committee for the Mass Society of CPAs for years where we read scholarship applications, and so many kids they just didn't even apply. There would be like 2 applications. So you apply, you get a scholarship, right? So that's a huge one, I think, and starting to have those discussions sophomore year, junior year, like what activities are you engaged in? Are you in FFA, right? There's scholarships for people that are involved in I'm just thinking of the ones when I was in high school, right? 4-H,
Yeah.
FFA, FHA, all of those things. Like
Yeah.
I don't even know if
Band.
band.
Band. Most people think athletic scholarships, but there's so many more scholarships available that have to do with things other than athletics.
Depending on the school that you go to too, there may be, so like my parents worked for, I grew up in a small town in Dimmitt for the in Dimmitt, small town in the Panhandle. So for people that are watching
Yeah.
from Texas, we had a branch of Cargill in our town, which has since closed, but they had a scholarship that they gave to kids of parents that worked there,
Yes.
right? So
Yes. Yeah.
and no one
Yeah.
applied for it, but I applied for it and I got it.
And you got it.
Yeah.
Community scholarships as well. The what is it? The here locally, and I think it's all of them do it. The American Legion gives a scholarship.
Yeah.
The VA gives, or the Veterans of Foreign Wars gives a scholarship. Different community, or the Kiwanis gives one, the Rotary Club gives one.
I was going to
You
say,
just have to apply.
Yeah. And that's usually the thing that is, there's so much money left on the table, and that's really frustrating when I hear from kids that say, I just took out the student loans, and they're not encouraged to explore those other options, because the people that they're interfacing with when they do the student loans, that's not their job. Their job is to just process you through. So is she going to 4-year school? Or did she start with community college? Okay. All right.
No, she's at a 4-year college right now.
Okay. I do want to just say, like, I am encouraging everyone I know to start with community college. And in fact, we have told my stepson, like, if you can take classes at a community college, I took classes at Amarillo College when I was in high school, because that is going to get you those credits if you don't have your tuition paid for. And a lot of people are like, I want the traditional college experience. Okay, well, maybe you go there for your second 2 years. Or maybe you think about, what does it mean to have a traditional college experience? And then what is that going to mean for my life later on if I'm paying back for that? So Amanda, go ahead, jump in here. Tell me what's going on with your kids, if you want to share. And you have one in college, right?
I have one in college. So I have two that are graduated high school. So my oldest is in his sophomore, junior year. He graduated high school a year ago. And then I have my second, who just graduated in May.
Okay.
And so when I say sophomore, junior it's because we did dual credit in high school, and technically we're in our second year of traditional college going to campus. But we have more credits than that because we did dual credit. Which I love that you brought that up, because it is such a great way for people to kind of get their feet wet while they're still in high school. They still have that structure. We didn't do a 2-year school, and I'm a little sad that we didn't do a 2-year school.
It's okay.
So not money-wise, so many of you don't know this. I went back to school. I got my CPA as a non-traditional student. So I went in my late 20s. I already had 3 kids. I went to a community college, and it really allowed me to kind of get my feet wet. And this is for just a comment in general for people who don't know about college. I didn't know about college. I was a first-gen student, and I didn't know the difference between an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree, and I didn't know the hierarchy of things. And so I really needed that. I remember sitting with my advisor and her saying, do you want a certificate or do you want a degree? And I was like, huh?
What's the difference, right? Yeah.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
And she said, well, do you want to go to a university? And I said, maybe. And she said, then you need to go this route. And so kind of back to talking with our kids. I know we were talking about in last episode about financial things. We need to be talking about those educationally too. Yeah. My second kiddo, he is more geared towards trades. He is in construction. He is actually taking over his dad's business. That's a new development. And my husband is going to be making some changes. And so our 18-year-old is taking that over. And college is not for him. He is super smart. And he was the kid. If you see in the last episode, we talk about paying for grades. I have a couple of reasons why we don't do that, because my kid would not do his homework until the last week of the 6 weeks, and then they would let him turn it in for full credit, and I was not rewarding him for being a procrastinator all semester.
Same. We had
Okay, so if you
they kind of got to ride on their on how smart they were
in the last episode when we're talking about
how smart they are. Yeah.
That's why I just couldn't reward that kind of behavior. So we are kind of doing both things right now, and I don't know that one's better than the other, but we're figuring it out.
Yeah, and I think you might be thinking like, what does this have to do with financial literacy? And my reply to that is this has everything to do with financial literacy, because the wealthiest people in our society don't have to puzzle out these problems. These problems are solved for them. They're told where they're going to go if their family member needs to buy their way into whatever school they want to go into. They do it. They make a donation. Like, I was in the academic world for many years. I watched this happen. I saw the divide between the first gen students and the students that were able to get in, because their parents had clout, money, whatever. And then kind of a middle piece of students where their parents were paying for part of it, they were paying for part of it, and they maybe still didn't have that financial literacy piece. But the important thing here is that for so long, our society has, it's not even so long. I'm not even going to say so long. It's only been since the 1950s that this was the case, pushing going to school and getting a degree is the only way that you can survive in this world. And that is simply not true. We know, as folks that work with business owners, our plumbers make a shitload of money, right? They
Yeah.
make a lot
Yeah.
more money than some of the people I have that have master's degrees or even PhDs, and they are in high demand. Now, I'm not saying that everyone has to be a plumber. Maybe you don't want to be a plumber. But
Mhm.
if you think that college isn't for you, it's a huge tide that you're swimming against, right? Because there's
Mhm.
so much condescension and scorn heaped upon people that, don't want to go that route. You have to be able to kind of ignore that a little bit and recognize that if you want to work in the trades, whatever that might be, right? It's such a broad term, right? You might want to be a hairdresser and own your own salon, right? You still have to be financially literate to do those things.
Yeah.
Um, but what we need to do as parents and as guardians of these kids, the ones that are bringing them up, is let them know you have a choice. This choice is going to cost you this much. This choice is going to cost you this much. This choice is going to cost you this much. What does that mean on the other side? And so this is a super important discussion about how much money are you going to earn with that career. And as someone who spent so much time in academia, it's a delicate question, because an English teacher might say to you, well, it's just as important for people to learn, you know, English. It's just as important for people to learn the arts. And I agree, all of those things have a place in our society. But I also have to point out that, like, we have to really think about what does someone need to do to be able to survive and thrive in the way they want to live in this world. And we have to be realistic about how much money they can earn in this current, iteration of our society. And so talking with kids about, we talked before about our kids don't necessarily know what we make. Well, telling them, like, look, this is what I had to do to get this job. This is how much it costs to go to school to get this job. This is the potential salary that you could make, or these are the options that you have. This is what my spouse does. This is how we get there, right? The money doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from the skills that we're able to provide to earn that. And so it doesn't all have to be traditional college, but I think we have to be realistic with them about how much money they can actually make. So sorry, that was a little longer than I wanted to go on, but
No,
I'm
no,
very
no. I
passionate
understand.
about that. Yeah.
No, I like
Yeah.
that. No, that's right, because I'm gonna stereotype a little bit, because there's a stereotypical, oh, I just got out of college with a bachelor's degree in art history, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
go get a job making $150,000 a year.
Not
Are
gonna
you?
happen.
It's not gonna happen.
I
So
mean, maybe if it's mommy and daddy's company and they forced you to get a degree,
maybe, right, right,
and
and
that's
and
about the
so
only scenario I really
it's
see
the
that
only
being realistic.
scenario. The reality is you graduate, and I'm going to use college graduation. The reality is you graduate with a bachelor's in English with a teaching certificate, and you go to teach in a public school system as a first year teacher, and you make, depending on the school district, 40 to maybe 55.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the state. They
That's the
make
reality.
more in Massachusetts, but it costs twice as much to live here. But yeah,
But it
you're
costs
not
twice as
making
much
very
to live
much.
there.
You're on the bottom rung of
You're on the bottom
salary,
rung.
and you're doing a hard job, a really hard job that I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do.
And you're doing a really hard job, right?
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, you could maybe say go to a trade school, vocational
Mhm.
school. You could learn to be a welder,
Yep.
and then you could go maybe get a job as a first year welder. And some of them, working in the trades, can go off and they can make 80 grand
Yeah. In their first year.
In
in their
their
first
first
year.
year, with less college, less debt.
Yeah.
Less college, less debt.
In
So
some,
I mean, it's
in
apples and
no
oranges.
college.
Do what?
And sometimes no college.
Yeah.
And sometimes no college.
So I'm always intrigued in this conversation because I feel like society, we have it wrong.
Mhm.
As somebody who has gone through a master's degree and holds a license, and I just think we have this weird mindset around where we should be putting our focus. So again, I work with construction. I work with all my tradesmen. These people make boo-koodles more money than I do. Boo-koodles. And when I say
They really do.
boo-koodles, I'm talking, I look at their financials, y'all. Please know that they make multiples of what I do. So for me, it was an easy choice when I had a kid who wanted to go that route. I'm like, yes, you're going to take care of mom when she's old.
Yeah,
Totally.
I think and again, like I got a PhD, and the reason why I ended up doing, like, no one in my family has this much education. I'm the first person in my family to even think about doing this. I did it because I was encouraged by a former professor. I wanted to teach, and anyway, long story short, I always felt a little bit like an imposter, and like, why did I need to do all of this to do what I'm doing, which essentially was teaching college kids. It's fine, whatever. We're kind of past that. And then I said, I'm going to go back into the real world where I'm actually helping people make good decisions. But I will say that there is something to be said for a well-rounded college education, because you do, if you do it right and you commit to it, you're able to experience things you might not have otherwise experienced, meet people you might not have otherwise met. Especially if you go somewhere away from where you grew up, right? You end up being exposed to all sorts of different viewpoints, etc. And 30 years ago, that's great. You can take those 4 years and you're fine. We're in a much different age now where, we have colleges in Boston that are charging $80,000 a year to go there, right? And I just, I can't, this is one of the reasons I left academia. I can't in good conscience advise people that they should do that if they're having to take out a loan for that much money, because I've seen the damage that it does to people later in life. You can't buy a home. You're saddled with this debt for however long, unless you do something in public service where you can eventually get it forgiven, right? It's just, I don't know. And so I struggle because I feel like I benefited greatly from going to college, in the things that I learned beyond just in my specialty area. But I don't think that the benefits outweigh the cost of it anymore. For someone who's just like, this sounds cool, I want to do this, I have no idea what I want to do yet. Um, and that's the other thing, right? At 18 years old, we're telling people you have to choose what you want to do for the rest of your life, and you feel stuck in that because you're going to take on all this debt, right? It's not like you're just going to go
Yeah.
and play around, right?
I think that's one of the worst things that we do to young people is launch them at 18, 18, 19, 20 years old and say, choose a career. How frightening is that to a young adult?
It's so
To just
frightening.
go, here's the world, you can choose whatever you want. That's, to me, I mean, me personally, that's paralyzing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I will also say, because I told all my children this, what you think you want to do at that age is likely not what you will end up doing.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay,
And that's okay.
I have to ask.
Yeah.
Do y'all remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, do y'all mind sharing?
Go ahead, Tammy.
I wanted to be a writer.
Hmm.
When I left high school, I wanted to go to college to be a history teacher.
Oh, okay.
And now, obviously, I'm a bookkeeper and a tax professional.
I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be like Demi Moore on A Few Good Men. Like that was like I even
Okay.
considered joining the military, but you know, for me growing up, I feel like the models that I had, and this goes back to the discussions that we have with our kids, but the models that I had were like, if you're a woman, you could be a teacher, you could be a lawyer, you could be a nurse. Those were kind of the
Wow.
three ones, right? I mean, is that not right? Is that not what you maybe saw modeled? Like lawyer was relatively new, and that came from watching the movies. But teacher and nurse, that was what the
That was
women that
it.
were successful were doing. I mean, West Texas A&M University, where I did my undergrad and my grad, it was like Texas State Teachers College or whatever it was initially, right? It was
Yes.
just for
Yes.
teachers. Um, so you know, our kids get these messages from all these places. So back to Amanda, what you were saying about what we pay people in society. Look at what we pay athletes, right?
Mhm.
None. It doesn't really necessarily. And I think this is where if we have a child that is particularly interested in a profession that we know is not going to make any money, where you have to have some really delicate conversations about this does not devalue in any way what you're interested in, but part of being an adult is figuring out how you can make enough money to survive, at least in this current iteration of our society. Maybe it will be different in 100 years. And so you have to be able to figure out, will a career in X, Y, or Z sustain me in that? And
Sustain
what
you.
is the path to get there, right? And sustaining means something different for everyone, right? Not everybody needs to make a
Yeah.
lot of money or wants to make a lot of money, but other people, they want to have surf and turf all the time, right? So their life is going to be a little different, what they need to do to sustain themselves.
And those are like super important conversations in introspect that our kids need to be learning. I mean, what the life that I have now is not a life I could have envisioned at
Mhm.
18.
Mhm.
If you don't know, I had two kids when I was 18. And the life that I live is nowhere, it just wasn't even imaginable for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm looking at my two kids. I didn't talk about it. Neither of my kids have left home. Um, I have zero intention for them to leave home anytime soon.
Oh, I thought
Um,
she was going to say ever.
no, I want them to get married and lead fulfilling lives, but
Yeah.
I enjoy that we are in a place where they can stay home. We're not
Yeah.
eyeing for that bedroom because they have a sibling who's going to need to move out of a different sibling's room into their own sometime. Like those were the things in my house, right? We
Yeah.
were ready for my older sister to move out so that somebody else could move into that room because there were three people sharing a room, and
Mhm.
I, it just is different. And so when my kids get older, I want them to have had I don't know, the safety net of being at home long enough that they've learned how to live.
Yeah.
They know how to pay bills. They know how to budget. They know how to do all of those things. I know people that get pushed out the door like as soon as graduation's over,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, yeah, no.
To me, that brings up the thought that in society in general, there was a time when we all, multi generational, we all did live together. And then there was a period of time where we didn't. And
Yeah.
now we're all moving back toward multi generational living under
Mhm.
the same roof or on the same property again.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with the economy,
Yeah. And COVID, right?
hands down.
Yeah.
And COVID and the pandemic and then just the inflation and everything's gotten more and more expensive and the cost of living and the cost of housing
Yeah.
And
is just
travel.
outrageous.
So I think when we're talking about that, we're bringing families back together closer because it just isn't doable to have that
Yeah.
unit.
You know, I know a lot of parents are saying, I want my kids to stay home so they can save money to eventually buy a house, for example, because it is so expensive. um, I think as parents, it's really important for us to be able to have these discussions about an open and honest discussion. Let me show you the electric bill. Let me show you the water bill. I've been telling you for all these years to turn off the damn lights, and it turns out that the bulbs don't really. It's not that. It's the air conditioner, okay? It's the air conditioner,
Leaving
and
the
we
door
are
open.
and we are not turning off the air conditioner because
No, we
that
are
is
not.
no, that is science's greatest gift besides indoor plumbing. So we are not turning that off. But just having that conversation and saying, look, it's not just the house payment, it's all these other things. And showing them tangible things, right? Actually printing the bill and like, this is what it costs to run this household on a monthly basis. And if you're not certain of what that is, then that's a different discussion, which we're going to have on another day. But being able to show them that, you know, when you go to college, if you live on campus, you're still in a little bit of a faux world because the room and board is in one piece, right? You still don't know about, well, how do I get the water turned on? How do I get the electricity turned on? What does that mean? What if I don't pay my bill? That goes on your credit report. That's going to affect everything else, right?
Right.
Um, and
Right.
so, but also it's just like, I had someone ask me once, like, how do I actually open a bank account? How do
Oh,
I actually open a
Yeah.
brokerage account? Like, what is the actual mechanics of doing that? And it's like, well, holy crap, I've been doing that for so long. It's a muscle memory for me understanding those things. But for our kids, they don't know.
Maybe
Where
they
do
don't
I where
know.
do I start? Right?
oh,
What about, can we talk just a second about credit cards?
Yeah.
Do
Okay.
do First of all, because I haven't been in decades, but do credit card lenders still target college age kids like they used to?
No, it's illegal now.
It's
So,
illegal now. Okay.
the Consumer Financial
Hmm.
Protection Act that was passed 2008, 2009, something like that.
Okay.
It's now illegal. That's also the act that made it where the credit card company has to show you how much in interest, right? So
Yeah.
how long it's going to take you to repay your credit card if you pay over 5 years or 10 years or whatever.
Okay.
So that disclosure came with that too. But yeah, like when I went to college,
But
right, they were set up on campus. Here's your credit card, and so many people wrecked their credit with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, you know, they show you how long it's going to take you to pay it off, but who pays attention to that?
oh, I
Right.
do.
That's a different
Well,
story.
yeah, we
The,
do.
our
But,
money, the
if you're
money vigilant
20,
among us, yeah, and those are the
you
people that
know,
don't need it because they're going to pay their card off anyway, right?
yeah. And if you're 19 and you just moved on campus or you just moved away from
Mhm.
mom and dad and you got a credit card and you're like, oh, I'm going to apply for a credit card because so and so told me I should. Um, they're not worried about how long it's going to take them to pay it off. They're just thinking, I've got a piece of plastic in my wallet with a $2,000 limit. It's party time.
And even worse are the buy now pay later loans that people can get.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You see it on anything you order online, like the buy now
Hmm.
pay later.
Hmm.
Those
Oh
are
yeah, they
worse.
all offer that now. They all offer that now.
Yeah. So I'll say a couple of things about cash, credit, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about the tangible act, and I recommend people do this with their little kids of having. I know people don't use cash anymore, but having a $20 bill, going in to buy something and just getting a little bit of change back for recognizing how fast money goes, right? That
Hmm.
tangible transaction that we all experienced when we were kids, right? Because what begins to happen with people when you use a card is you become disconnected from what's actually happening. The dollars, like, I just did an Amazon grocery order earlier. I didn't even look at how much it cost because it was the
Yeah.
grocery order, and I just ran it through and it's going on the Amazon card, and whatever. What is happening, right? Like, if I had been in the grocery store, I would have definitely been paying attention as they rang stuff up, but so many people don't. They just swipe the card and go on. Even worse when you have Apple Pay or something where you don't even swipe a card, you don't even enter a card number, you just enter your PIN number and bing, you've made your purchase and it's done. So for our kids, they are so disconnected from the cash that you work so hard to earn and the spending. This is where we can have spending really get out of control. Like you said, just the piece of plastic, but they don't even have the piece of plastic necessarily anymore. It's in their phone. It's this little game that they have. So there's a lot of discussions that you should be having with your kids around what's happening when you're swiping a credit card and modeling that behavior. Yep, we're using a credit card, but I think I mentioned this in the last episode. We use a JetBlue card all the time and we get those points and we use those points. But like when we went on vacation, we took my stepson to New York. We had the hotel, obviously, and then we had food, right, while we were there. And then when we got back, I said, I just paid off the credit card. And I was very clear about that. Like, yes, we used the credit card the whole time we were there. But as soon as we got home, I went in and I made a payment and I paid it off. And that discussion about the connection between mom is swiping the credit card, but yes, tomorrow I'm going to go into the bank account and I'm going to pay it off. It happens from somewhere. It's so important. I don't know. What have you guys talked to your kids about with credit cards? Do they have credit cards? Do they?
Oh, no.
No. But it's very important for building credit, though. That's the problem. If you don't have something, then you're an unknown, right?
I want them to stay unknown for a little while longer.
Okay.
I need them to grow up a little bit more. I need them to learn financial literacy a little bit more before I'm comfortable signing off on that. Now, can they go do it without me? 100%. I don't have to turn off. But in our family, that's not really how things work. Like we talk about it like we want them to understand. And so they do somewhat listen, even as older teenagers who are technically grown. I can't tell them what to do, but I'm really thankful they still listen to my advice. So we're just holding off a little bit longer, getting a little bit more mature. Impulse, I think I've learned so much about the science behind things and where they place things at the grocery store or the boxes that they put on the menu at the restaurant to draw your eye to it, that I'm just not comfortable until my kids' brains are developed just a little bit more.
That's fair.
Those impulse, y'all, I just think the world's set up to get them. Just a little bit.
It is. You're not wrong about that.
So I am just delaying that until their impulse control is a little bit better.
Could you add them as an authorized user, even to just have them be okay?
So we're definitely considering that avenue. They just can't have their own card.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's so hard, right? Because you are stuck in that. I didn't have a credit card until I was 22. I had to get one for work because I had to book travel and you had to have a credit card. They wouldn't take a debit card because my parents were very afraid of credit cards from past credit mistakes. And so I was terrified as well. But then I found out I was like this big unknown. It's like, okay, now what do I do if I want to buy a car or get an apartment or anything like that?
Oh my goodness, that is such an important thing. Like kids understanding that they really do have to have that history.
Yeah.
And it's more than just a paycheck stub or an offer letter that gets them to be able to have that purchasing power.
Yeah, and I mean, your kids, you could co-sign for them, right? On anything, right? Other kids, if they don't have parents that can do that, they kind of start out of the gate behind, right? Because at some point they are going to want to get an apartment, and are they going to be able to do that? Well, they probably have to have a job. Maybe they're trying to, go to school anyway. So there's a whole kind of sub area there about developing your credit and how the people that already have it or have parents that can help them out, they are 10 steps ahead of the kiddos that don't have credit, as far as what they have access to and what they're able to do to help them move through the world in an easier way than someone that has nothing.
Okay, so
I know, right? That was kind of a downer, wasn't it? But it's so true.
Well, it's kind of a downer, and it's it's kind of a, geez, you think, oh, you raised them to 18 and now you can let them go, but you can't. You still have all this stuff you got to teach them. It's like, dang,
That's
wow.
dang. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
Michaela,
heavy.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
When it comes to saving,
Yeah.
like we all know that having, I don't like calling it a rainy day fund, but having a savings is important.
Yeah.
And we know that there are lots of bad advice givers when it comes to financial things. But like, what would you tell young people about saving and how they can get started if they're not really much above making ends meet?
Yeah. So I think there's two parts to this. If you have a job where an employer offers you, even if it's a part-time job, even if it's a short-term job, if they're offering you retirement of any sort and they're going to match, take it, max it out. That's
Yeah.
free money to you. And obviously you have to make ends meet. You have to be able to survive day to day. So that might not be a complete option. But I also think Tammy mentioned, I think in the previous episode, about living below their means.
Mhm.
One thing that I suggest to people as they graduate and they get that first job, pretend like you're still in college, eat ramen for a couple of years, right? Live below your means and really jumpstart contributing to retirement. I will say for me, I have saved a lot of money. I could retire right now and I would be okay. And I did that by maxing out the match in my job, every single job, and starting when I was 21 years old, contributing at every job, never rating it, even when I needed to, even when I was really broke, or ended up, getting a personal loan instead, because that money, that savings was sacred. Now that may not be an option for everyone. If you end up running your own business, there's other things to think about there, and that can be a different episode. But so many people ignore that option. Max out that retirement, take your employer's money, go with that. Otherwise, for kiddos just starting out, credit unions are a really well
Yes.
kept secret, right? Often you can get a good rate on a savings account there. And so right now, rates are decent. You might be able to get 4% on savings right now. Take your paycheck, even if you're saving. I posted about this a couple months ago, the idea of a savings ladder, saving $10 one week, then 20, then 40, then 80, and going up that ladder. And maybe you stop on a rung and that's as much as you can do, but the point is to establish that habit of just putting something away, whatever it is. Just that mindset of, I am saving, I can save, and I'm doing this for future me, right? And then if you have to use it for an emergency, so be it. It is what it is, but you have the habit established now of saving.
Yeah.
But going to a credit union or a local bank, having someone that knows you, where if eventually you do have to get a car loan, you do have to get a personal loan, go establish that relationship, go in person. I know that's like really hard for kids now to think about, but it's such a strange thing now that you will stick out in their mind. And it's like, oh, this kid is a real go-getter. I'm going to look out for them anytime they come in. I'm going to make sure that I'm helping them as much as possible. And so having that person on your team, I think, is really important too. But yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I think we're probably running out of time, and I think
I think
Michaela
so.
has to run.
I do. I have to go advise a business owner on making sure her books
Well,
are where they should be. So that's a different discussion for a different day.
that is what you do, and
Yeah.
that's why we love you. So if anybody needs Michaela's help, you can visit her at fintuitionadvising.com, and we appreciate you being here with us today.
Yeah,
And
thank you very much. And as always, come find me on Instagram because I have a lot of free content out there. And if you just,
Okay.
I try to be amusing. So if you kind of like my style, I give a little tough love on a daily basis about, getting your shit together with money. So
Awesome.
come find me.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Great.
you.
We appreciate
Okay.
you.
Well, we'll see you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Bye. And Amanda and I will be back next time with another episode of the Down Home Texas Small Business Show.
Thanks, y'all.
So, thanks, y'all. Peace out. We'll see you later.